I have a story for you that Reverend Mark Morrison Reed told in a national address a few years back. And the story is from back in 1982. Toronto first had an interim minister named Reverend Mark Mosher DeWolf. Maybe you've read his book or even remember him. In Mark DeWolf's final Sunday at First, he referenced a congregational survey which said that 35% of the congregation would have difficulty relating to a gay minister. Yeah, it is true, we weren't very welcoming at the time. Mark DeWolf then asked the congregation, "How do you feel about having a gay minister now that you've had one for 6 months?" The congregation was thunderstruck, and afterwards there was a standing ovation. Later, someone said to him, "You've got guts," and Mark replied, "I'm still shaking." So how wonderful that Mark DeWolf had the guts to share himself, and how tragic that guts were needed. How wonderful that Mark shared an important part of his life on his final Sunday with the congregation, and how sad that he couldn't share it on his first Sunday. Mark knew that he lived in a world where relationship takes time. If he had spoken up on day one, it is possible that 35% of the congregation would not have given him a chance. He judged that it was better to wait, build trust first, and then share himself. And it is so sad that this was necessary. As Mark Morrison Reed says in that national address, we want to come to a Unitarian community to be fully ourselves and be accepted as such. We don't want to have to hold back to build trust. It is so sad when we aren't accepted for who we are, and we hide ourselves while we bide our time. And I admit I can hide. I've got so much love to give, but if I let that light shine as soon as I meet someone, it can be too much and they don't trust it. So I want to say, hello, you're a human, me too, that's amazing, I love you. So good to be with you, but I hold back. My partner is a Gestalt psychotherapist, and in her first year of training, she was taught the phrase, peeling the onion. When you meet someone, start off with small talk, just keep it shallow and then gradually go deeper. Gradually peel the onion. And that can work very well. I expect that we've all had experiences where we meet new people, keep it light, and then gradually realize that we've become friends. It is so beautiful to realize that your wall has come down with someone and there's a new kindred spirit in your life. But it is not always that simple. How can I begin a conversation by lightly commenting on the weather when 215 bodies have been found in Kamloops and another 751 at Maryval? Sometimes there is too much going on to begin with simple pleasantries. Too much historical wrong that needs to be made right. Too much dominance that needs to be countermanded by humility. Too many broken promises to allow for even a modicum of trust. Too many cultural differences to take for granted even how to greet someone. There's an activist here in Peterborough named Peter Williams who leaned into that distrust. He used to live in Toronto and he worked as a support worker on the streets of the gay village. A lot of gay men had been kicked out of home or harassed by strangers, even harassed by police. So you can imagine that there were issues of trust. And this was during the AIDS epidemic when you couldn't trust your body would stay healthy, couldn't trust that your friends would still be around in a year, couldn't trust that anyone outside the village would even care. And in such an environment, Peter learned how to connect with people. He likes the saying that change happens at the speed of relationship. I'll say that again. Change happens at the speed of relationship. Peter is so good at nurturing relationship that here in Peterborough, he was hired by the police department to do community engagement. He built relationships throughout the community so that there were better options than police use of force. He inspires me to build relationships of trust so that I can participate in the work of equity, anti-racism, and climate justice more effectively. Without trust, things can escalate very quickly. Stephen Covey, the author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, also wrote a book called The Speed of Trust. Covey says, in a high trust relationship, you can say the wrong thing and people will still get your meaning. In a low trust relationship, you can be very measured, even precise, and they'll still misinterpret you. There is tension in some Unitarian Universalist circles about the future of our denomination. In a Facebook group, someone says something not quite precisely, someone else eagerly jumps on a misinterpretation, and then the first person misinterprets them, and it is a cascading Facebook wall of uncharitable behavior, with misunderstandings growing more quickly than they can be resolved. Some people are stepping away from such attempts at dialogue. I learned a saying from UU religious educator Aisha Hauser: never explain yourself to someone who is committed to misunderstanding you. Walls can go up when someone is sick of being treated uncharitably, when our connection is not sustained by relationship. In the first week of my internship in Hamilton, there was almost a misunderstanding. I approached a member of the congregation, Beverly Horton, and asked her to be on my internship committee. Now, members of the internship committee sit with me through the year to process what is happening, to challenge me into deeper ways of ministry. The committee depends on a high level of trust. When I asked Beverly to be on my internship committee, her response was, "Why?" I guessed that she would not be impressed if the reason was that she be a token Black person on the committee. Unfortunately, the reason was more substantial. She had led the creation of an amazing worship service for the Canadian Unitarian Council's annual meeting the year before. Maybe you remember it from Hamilton 2 years ago. I wanted someone with that level of worship talent on my committee. And fortunately, she said yes, and it was a rich year of learning for me. Early in my internship, I learned that Beverly was leading anti-racism work in the congregation, and I wanted to get involved. I wanted to be an ally. Now, too many white people have shown up at anti-racism meetings and announced, "I am an ally," with an unfortunate mix of assertiveness and naivete. And I didn't want to make that mistake. The title of ally is not claimed, it is bestowed. So I waited for things to happen at the speed of relationship. I didn't wait passively. I showed up at events, I took notes, I amplified voices. I read Audre Lorde, Patricia Hill Collins, June Jordan. I listened to hours of podcasts that invited me to look at patterns of domination within myself. And when January came around, Beverly invited me to participate in a Sunday service with an anti-racism theme. And of course, I said yes. Beverly had me do 2 things, and I was impressed by both. The first was that she gave me a reading to read that she herself disagreed with. She wanted the opinion of another activist of color shared, even as she disagreed with it. This work can handle multiple perspectives. So I was impressed. And the second thing she asked me to do was participate in an improvised skit on common mistakes when doing anti-racism work. She knew that I loved improv theater and she tied it in. So this leadership style, and I'll even call it a gift, is what made the CUC's annual service that she led feel so alive. Anti-racism work can be personal, risky, and alive. I was also impressed by how fully the congregation was with her. She challenged them and they rose to the occasion. I wonder if you've seen those 6-column charts of anti-racism work. Column 1 is when you actively do not want to do the work. Column 2 is when you're indifferent. Column 3 is when the congregation wants to be welcoming to people of marginalized identities. Column 4 is when people of marginalized identities actually feel welcome. Big step. Column 5 is when the culture has fundamentally shifted. And column 6 is total cosmic transformation. So part of Beverly's style is storytelling, sharing stories that grab your heart. They open you up, whatever column you are in. And part of Beverly's style is to bring the congregation into a new culture, the culture of columns 5 and 6. She says the hard truths and holds space for the discomfort. And I believe that her success, the congregation's willingness to go with her on this journey, was largely because there was a foundation of trust. Relationship came first, and then transformation happened. I learned another style of transformation from our own Art Brewer. Hello, Art. Good to be with you. So Art helped Toronto First to become a welcoming congregation. At the time, the designation of welcoming congregation meant that everyone, regardless of sexual orientation, was welcome here. And now welcoming congregational renewal includes more, such as gender diversity. Art helped First become a welcoming congregation. And after that, he traveled across the country helping other congregations to do the same. And when Art told me about this, he showed me one of those 6-column charts. And he didn't try to launch congregations straight into column 6. Rather, he met people where they were at and encouraged them just to move a little bit towards the next column. If you don't care about being welcoming at all, maybe a personal story will help you. Maybe you care but don't know what to do. Maybe some tips will help you get into column 3. So Art used a gradual process of nudging people, encouraging people and congregations just a little bit, year after year, moving with them in relationship. Thank you, Art, for that work you did. Now, this is a very active congregation. You are the type of people who take the initiative, and you might be wondering how to move at the speed of relationship while still in a lingering pandemic. I learned a helpful strategy from our own Maura Barrett. Hello, Maura, good to be with you. So Moira taught me to adjust my reading so that at least 50% of authors I read are women, and at least 30% are from other marginalized identities. Change happens at the speed of relationship, and relationship can be nurtured by whose perspectives you are taking in. So living into Moira's standard was challenging at first. I had a huge reading list I wanted to get to that felt very alive and relevant for me. I did not want to put it aside. But when I looked at my reading list through the lens of Moira's standard, it fell short. I decided to put aside the book I was reading and pick up Audre Lorde. And then something remarkable happened. Audre Lorde made reference to several other authors, and suddenly my new book list took on a life of its own. I again had abundance, and this time I was in a broader relationship. And I'll admit that I've had lapses. It can be comforting to go back to authors who are just like me. Reading new voices can be like listening to new kinds of music, enriching, but in a rhythm that doesn't yet move within me. I come back to this new music again and again because I believe in connecting with the interdependent web in all its variety. And I know that eventually, by surprise, relationship happens, and I am no longer reaching out to another. I am now inhabiting a broader sense of self that includes all. If you are wondering what to do about children's bodies at residential schools, or you're wondering what to do about the climate emergency or trans inclusion, the bad news is that change can only happen at the speed of relationship. The good news, and this can help you decide on your next step, our next steps. The good news is that change can happen at the speed of relationship.